The late afternoon sun slants through lace curtains, painting golden patterns across a well-worn kitchen table. A kettle hums softly on the stove, the scent of chamomile rising with the steam. Here, in this gentle light, begins the quiet story of grandparent wisdom. Those lessons that rarely appear in manuals or lectures, but shape entire families all the same. Grandparents have always been the keepers of time's most enduring truths. They speak them not with fanfare, but through the way they listen, the patience in their eyes, the way their hands pause before reaching for yours as if to say, "I am here, and I see you." In every culture and every generation, there are things the elders know but seldom announce. They are not rules etched in stone. They are softer, like river stones smoothed by years of water and weather. They guide without forcing, teach without preaching. In today's hurried world, where screens glow brighter than sunsets and conversations are compressed into brief texts, these unspoken rules feel more essential than ever. They are the quiet architecture of family life, the frame that keeps love standing when everything else shifts. The first of these truths lives in the art of listening. A grandparent listens not to reply, but to understand. Imagine the simple grace of a child's voice tumbling through the details of a day, every word a small miracle. The grandparent does not interrupt with advice or hurry the story toward a lesson. They lean in, nodding, offering the rare gift of full attention. In a society that prizes quick answers and constant commentary, this listening becomes a sanctuary. It tells the child, "Your words matter, your thoughts are safe here." That feeling becomes a lifelong memory, shaping the way that child will one day listen to others. Such listening ripples outward. When grown children return home with their own worries, a faltering career, a complicated relationship, the grandparent's quiet presence becomes a balm. No judgment, no rush, just the steady heartbeat of acceptance. Families thrive on this kind of silence, a silence that says, "I trust you to find your way." Grandparents know that advice given too quickly can feel like control. Instead, they offer space, and in that space, love does its quiet work. Patience follows naturally from listening. Grandparents understand that time moves in its own rhythm. They have witnessed harvests and droughts, prosperity and lean years, and they know that most storms pass if you wait. This patience is not passive. It is active, deliberate, like holding a lantern in a dark hallway until someone else finds the courage to walk forward. When a toddler struggles to tie a shoe, the grandparent waits, offering encouragement, but never snatching the laces away. When an adult grandchild faces a painful decision, they trust that clarity will emerge when it's ready. In a family, such patience becomes an inheritance more valuable than gold. Respect for differences is another quiet lesson. Grandparents have lived long enough to see fashions shift, beliefs evolve, and once radical ideas become ordinary. They know that each generation must choose its own path. So when a granddaughter announces a career no one in the family has pursued, or a grandson shares a love that defies old conventions, the wise grandparent welcomes without hesitation. They may not understand every detail, but they understand love, and love is reason enough. In their acceptance, the family learns that belonging is not earned by sameness, but given freely. There is also the lesson of small rituals. Grandparents teach that meaning hides in the everyday, the Sunday phone call, the shared meal, the way birthdays are marked with a favorite song. These rituals are not merely habits. They are threads that stitch the family quilt. In a world that moves fast and forgets easily, such traditions anchor memory. Long after the grandparent is gone, a scent of cinnamon or the sound of an old melody will call everyone back to the same warm kitchen, the same golden light. Humor, too, carries wisdom. Grandparents know the healing power of a well-timed laugh, the way a story told with a twinkle can lift a heavy heart. They have weathered enough to see that most worries eventually become anecdotes, and that laughter is a bridge across generations. A shared joke between a teenager and a 90-year-old dissolves the illusion of distance. For a moment, they are simply two humans delighting in the same absurdity of life. Perhaps the most profound unspoken rule is presence. Grandparents remind us that being together matters more than doing or achieving. Sitting side by side on a porch swing, watching dusk settle over the trees, they show that love needs no agenda. In a culture obsessed with productivity, this simple presence is revolutionary. It tells the family that worth is not measured in tasks completed, but in hearts connected. As evening deepens outside the window and the kettle quiets, these truths settle like soft music in the room. The grandparent does not announce them. They live them, in every patient pause, every knowing smile, every gentle touch on a shoulder. Their wisdom becomes part of the family's very language, carried forward in gestures and stories long after words are forgotten. When dawn returns and the first light drapes the neighborhood in pale gold, a grandparent is often the first to rise. There is a kind of devotion in these early hours. The kettle whistles again, the same familiar sound that once woke small children padding sleepily into the kitchen decades ago. The house is quiet, but memory hums within the walls, the echo of tiny feet, the faint scent of crayons and school lunches, the murmur of bedtime stories. Grandparents live with time as both companion and teacher, and this relationship with time becomes another silent lesson. They know that life is not a race. It is a garden. Some seeds take months to sprout, others bloom overnight, and a few lie dormant for years before surprising everyone with their color. This understanding makes them generous with forgiveness. A mistake by a child or a misstep by an adult grandchild is not a permanent mark but a passing shadow. They have seen how regret can soften and how hearts can heal if given a chance. When a young family member comes home worried about a quarrel, the grandparent listens and perhaps tells a gentle story of their own youthful misjudgments. There is no sermon, only a quiet reminder that what feels unbearable today will one day be a lesson carried lightly. Forgiveness, after all, is the glue that keeps families from breaking under the weight of human imperfection. Meals are another canvas for this wisdom. The way a grandparent prepares food, slowly, with attention and a touch of ritual, teaches that nourishment is more than calories. It is love made tangible. A simple stew simmering for hours gathers the flavors of patience and care. When the family gathers around the table, conversation becomes the main dish. Children learn without realizing it that food is more than something to consume. It is an excuse to connect, to listen, to laugh until the candles burn low. Even decades later, the scent of that stew will carry them back to the circle of warmth and story. Grandparents also hold a subtle understanding of limits. They know when to step in and when to step back. Modern families juggle busy schedules, and it is tempting for elders to try to solve every problem, to shield loved ones from every discomfort. But true wisdom recognizes the difference between help and rescue. The grandparent offers guidance like a lighthouse offers light, steady, reliable, never steering the ship but always illuminating the way. They might quietly pay a bill to ease a crisis, but they resist the urge to dictate choices. In this balance, children and grandchildren learn self-reliance, tempered by the security of unconditional support. The seasons outside mirror the seasons of a life. Autumn's crisp air whispers of letting go, of releasing what is no longer needed. Grandparents understand this dance of holding and releasing. They keep photo albums and old letters, but they also know when to give away possessions so that memories can travel forward in new hands. A granddaughter might wear a necklace once treasured by her grandmother, not as a relic, but as a living thread connecting past and present. These gifts are more than objects. They are symbols of trust and continuity, teaching that love is not diminished by sharing. Even technology, often seen as a divide, becomes a bridge in their presence. A grandparent who learns to send a video message or scroll through digital photos sends a quiet signal. Learning never ends. They may laugh at their own clumsy swipes on a tablet, but the effort itself speaks volumes. It tells younger generations that curiosity belongs to every age, and that staying connected is an act of love worth the awkward first attempts. Perhaps one of the most poignant unspoken rules is that of legacy through story. Grandparents know that tales outlive calendars. They sprinkle memories into conversations, a wartime romance, a childhood prank, a narrow escape on a stormy night. These are not just entertainments. They are guideposts disguised as anecdotes. Each story carries hidden maps of resilience, courage, and wonder. Long after the teller is gone, a grandchild will recall a phrase or a laugh and feel steadied, as if a hand rests gently on their shoulder. As evening falls again, the house fills with subtle reminders of these truths. A rocking chair creaks softly, A lamp throws warm circles on the floor. The grandparent sits quietly, not as a figure of authority, but as a living testament to the art of being fully human. Their wisdom requires no proclamation. It is carried in every pause, every gentle correction, every burst of laughter that floats up the staircase to where children dream. Morning turns to afternoon, and the quiet house begins to fill with familiar sounds again. A door opens, shoes scuff the hallway, and grandchildren spill in with the boundless energy of youth. The grandparents' eyes brighten, not only from love but from recognition. In these young faces, they see echoes of every generation that came before. They welcome the noise as one welcomes music, knowing that within the clatter of backpacks and laughter lies the heartbeat of the family. This, too, is an unspoken rule. Cherish the commotion. For one day it will fade into memory, and the silence will feel different. The children race toward the kitchen, their voices colliding in excitement as they recount small triumphs. An art project, a new friend, a goal scored in the final minutes of a game. The grandparent listens as if these are epics worthy of a bard, eyes wide with delight. This undivided attention is a powerful lesson in dignity. It tells the children that their stories, no matter how small, are valuable. Later in life, when they face larger challenges, they will remember what it feels like to be truly heard. After snacks and stories, the grandparent suggests a walk. Outside, the air is crisp and the world alive with details most adults overlook. Together, they notice the tilt of a bird's wing, the smell of fresh-cut grass, the way sunlight catches on a spider's web. Nature becomes a classroom where patience and wonder are the teachers. The grandparent points out how the trees bend without breaking, how rivers carve new paths when obstacles appear. Without a lecture, they are teaching resilience, showing that strength often means flexibility. As they stroll, the grandparent recalls their own childhood adventures, climbing apple trees, skating on frozen ponds, sneaking warm rolls from the bakery before dawn. These tales are sprinkled with gentle humor, the kind that bridges decades. The grandchildren laugh, eyes wide, realizing that their elder was once as mischievous and curious as they are now. The stories dissolve the illusion of distance between generations. For a moment, they are simply companions exploring the same world. Back home, the grandparent encourages a quiet activity, perhaps a puzzle or a simple craft. The room settles into a peaceful rhythm, conversation flowing in soft currents. They might talk about dreams, about questions that have no immediate answers. The grandparent does not rush to provide solutions. Instead, they model the art of wondering aloud, showing that uncertainty can be a friend. In this way, they teach the family that wisdom is not about having all the answers, but about holding questions with grace. Later, when parents arrive to pick up the children, the grandparent offers hugs that linger just a second longer than necessary. They exchange a knowing glance with their adult child, a look that contains decades of shared history, moments of struggle and triumph. No words are needed. This silent communication is itself a kind of rule. Love can be spoken without sound, carried in the eyes and the gentle pressure of a hand. Even after the house grows quiet again, the grandparent's influence continues to ripple outward. Perhaps a grandchild decides to write a thank you note the next morning, inspired by the simple kindness they experienced. Perhaps an adult child feels a renewed patience with their own kids, remembering the calm presence they witnessed. These small acts, born of example rather than instruction, become the family's true inheritance. When night falls, the grandparent settles once more into a favorite chair. Outside, stars prick the dark sky. They think of their own grandparents, long gone yet vividly present in memory. They recall a lullaby hummed softly, a story whispered beside a crackling fire, a gentle correction offered with love. The circle of wisdom stretches backward and forward, unbroken. They smile, knowing that what they have offered today will live on in ways they may never see. And so the unspoken rules endure. Listen with your whole heart. Forgive quickly, honor difference, cherish ritual, laugh often, be present. These are not commandments carved in stone, but living truths carried from one generation to the next. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new technologies, new ways of life, but these quiet principles will remain steady as the stars, guiding families through every season. The next morning breaks with a soft rain tapping the windows, a sound that seems to slow the entire house to a gentle rhythm. The grandparent rises quietly, moving through familiar routines with a grace that comes from years of practice. They set a pot of oatmeal to simmer, slice fruit, and place an old record on the turntable. The warm crackle of vinyl blends with the rain, creating a soundtrack of comfort. These simple gestures speak a truth beyond words. Home is built from moments of care, not grand declarations. Later, a neighbor stops by to return a borrowed book. The grandparent welcomes them with an easy smile and a cup of tea. Their conversation drifts from weather to gardens to the small triumphs and trials of daily life. In these exchanges, the grandparent demonstrates another quiet lesson, the value of community. They know that friendship is not measured in frequency, but in presence. A brief chat on a rainy morning can brighten a week. The grandchildren watching from the doorway learn that neighbors are not strangers but an extended family waiting to be nurtured. When the rain lifts, a soft mist lingers over the garden. The grandparent takes a slow walk among the flowers, inspecting each bud and leaf with patient attention. They pause to stake a leaning tomato plant, to brush soil from a fallen petal, to marvel at a hummingbird darting from bloom to bloom. This devotion to small details is itself a form of wisdom. It teaches that life's beauty is found not only in milestones, but in the quiet care of ordinary things. The garden becomes a metaphor. Growth requires tending, and every season has its own gifts. Later that afternoon, the grandchildren return, curious and full of questions. One asks about the photograph on the mantel, a black and white portrait of young faces in old-fashioned clothes. The grandparent smiles and begins to tell the story. A wedding day long ago, the excitement of a first home, the struggles and laughter that followed. As the tale unfolds, the children lean closer, drawn not just to the history, but to the warmth of the storyteller's voice. Through these stories, the grandparent stitches the family's past to its present, ensuring that the lineage of love remains unbroken. As evening approaches, the family gathers for dinner. The table is set with familiar dishes, some recipes so old they have no written form. Each bite carries memories of generations, meals shared in distant kitchens, laughter echoing across time. The grandparent watches with quiet satisfaction as conversation flows, interruptions mingle with bursts of laughter, and everyone, from the youngest to the oldest, finds a place in the circle. In this simple meal lies a profound truth. Family is not about perfection, but about presence. The table holds space for every story, every emotion, every imperfect human being. After dinner, when the dishes are washed and the children are tucked into makeshift beds for a sleepover, the grandparent lingers in the doorway of each room. They listen to the soft breathing of sleeping children, the gentle murmur of a late-night conversation between parents. These small sounds, so easy to overlook, are treasures beyond measure. The grandparent feels a quiet gratitude, knowing that these moments, unremarkable to the world, are the true riches of life. The next day brings a visit to the park. The grandchildren race ahead, their laughter ringing across the open field. The grandparent follows at a steady pace, a calm counterpoint to the children's exuberance. They stop to watch a group of ducks gliding across the pond, pointing out how each bird moves in harmony with the others. Without a lecture, they teach about cooperation, about the unspoken bonds that hold families and communities together. As the sun sets, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, the grandparent gathers the children for the walk home. They speak softly of the day's wonders, the hummingbird in the garden, the sound of rain on the roof, the way the world smells after a storm. The children listen, their eyes reflecting the fading light. They are learning, without realizing it, how to carry beauty in their hearts. When the house grows quiet again, the grandparent sits with a worn journal and writes a few lines. Thoughts about the day, a memory stirred by a child's question, a hope for tomorrow. This private ritual, unseen by others, captures the essence of their wisdom. That life's meaning is built not only in what we share, but also in the reflections we keep for ourselves. These pages, filled with decades of quiet observations, are a testament to a life fully lived. Night deepens, stars appear, and the grandparent closes the journal with a gentle sigh. They know that their presence, their stories, and their steady love will outlast them. The unspoken rules will pass into the hearts of their children and grandchildren, carried forward in gestures and choices in the way future generations listen, forgive, and cherish each other. The following morning begins with a golden sunrise spilling across the curtains. The grandparent awakens to a house still heavy with sleep, yet every corner hums with the quiet promise of a new day. They move slowly, not from frailty, but from intention, savoring each small act. The brush of cool water on their face, the soft creak of a well-worn floorboard, the aroma of coffee blooming in the pot. These rituals, repeated countless times, remind them that peace is not a grand destination, but a choice made moment by moment. Later, a phone call arrives from an old friend. Their voices weave through decades of shared history, childhood escapades, triumphs, and losses, the subtle humor of lives long intertwined. They laugh until their sides ache, and when the call ends, a warm calm settles over the room. This exchange offers another quiet teaching. Nurture old friendships as you would a beloved garden, because these connections become rare and precious with time. The grandchildren, overhearing fragments of conversation, sense the depth of loyalty and learn what enduring companionship truly means. When the family gathers again, the grandparent invites the children to the attic. Dust motes dance in sunbeams as boxes are opened to reveal faded letters, worn toys, and heirlooms long forgotten. Each object carries a story. A frayed scarf sparks memories of a long-ago winter. A dented tin lunchbox recalls first days of school. The grandchildren listen wide-eyed, discovering that even ordinary possessions can hold extraordinary meaning. Without formal instruction, they absorb the value of memory, the understanding that our lives are stitched together by the tangible traces of love and perseverance. In the afternoon, the grandparent takes the grandchildren to a quiet library. Among shelves of countless books, they wander like explorers, fingertips grazing spines, inhaling the scent of paper and ink. The grandparent kneels beside a child and whispers about the power of stories to travel across centuries, to preserve the wisdom of those who came before. They encourage the children to choose any book, reminding them that curiosity is a compass that can guide them anywhere. This gentle encouragement plants seeds of lifelong learning, a gift that will outlast even the grandparents' own presence. Evening brings a family game around the dining table. Laughter rises and falls like music, each playful competition punctuated by teasing and cheers. The grandparent revels in the energy, knowing that such simple joys bind a family more tightly than any grand gesture. When a younger child grows frustrated by a loss, the grandparent offers a quiet word of reassurance, showing that grace in defeat is as important as delight in victory. These small lessons, wrapped in fun, shape character more deeply than stern lectures ever could. After the children drift to bed, the grandparent steps outside for a final look at the night sky. Stars shimmer with ageless light, a silent reminder of the vast continuity of life. They breathe deeply, letting the cool air fill their lungs, and think of all who came before, the ancestors whose choices carved the path to this very moment. Gratitude wells up, quiet and steady, for the chance to be a link in this unbroken chain. Days pass in a similar rhythm, walks through neighborhood streets where every tree holds a memory, conversations on porch swings that stretch into twilight, lessons disguised as stories, patience offered like a warm blanket. Over time, the grandchildren begin to mirror these habits without realizing it. They listen more attentively, forgive more quickly, and find beauty in the ordinary. The unspoken rules have already taken root. One afternoon, the eldest grandchild asks a serious question about the future, about fear, about change, about the uncertainty of growing up. The grandparent listens without interruption, then responds not with answers, but with calm presence. They speak of how each generation faces unknowns, how courage is often a quiet companion rather than a loud declaration. Their voice is steady, carrying the weight of years, and the child feels comforted not by a solution, but by the assurance that wisdom is shared through being, not just through words. As seasons turn, the grandparents' home becomes a living archive of love, The scent of baking bread drifts from the kitchen, mingling with the soft notes of music and the echo of stories told again and again. Photographs line the walls like a gentle chorus of remembered lives. Every visitor senses the warmth, the invisible fabric of care woven through each room. It is a sanctuary where family members shed the rush of the outside world and remember what truly matters. Eventually, the grandchildren will grow older, their own lives pulling them in new directions. Yet the lessons learned here will remain. To listen fully, to nurture friendships, to honor history, to cherish small joys. These teachings will travel with them into adulthood, guiding choices, shaping relationships, and whispering comfort in difficult times. The grandparent knows this with quiet certainty, and that knowledge brings a profound peace. As night settles once more, they sit in their favorite chair, a soft lamp casting a golden circle of light. They close their eyes and breathe, content in the understanding that their life's wisdom is no longer theirs alone. It lives now in the hearts of those they love, carried forward in laughter, in patience, in the gentle strength of a family that will continue to grow long after they are gone. Morning light filters through the curtains like a soft blessing, and the grandparent rises with the quiet dignity of someone who understands the gift of another day. Outside, the world is just waking, birds offering their first songs, the air carrying the clean scent of dew. They pause for a moment at the window, letting gratitude fill them before the day begins. It is a simple habit, but one that speaks volumes. Begin with thanks, and the hours ahead unfold with unexpected grace. Breakfast is a slow ritual. The grandparent cuts fruit with careful hands, stirs oatmeal until it thickens, and places each bowl on the table as though setting a stage for connection. When the grandchildren arrive, still tousled from sleep, the kitchen fills with soft chatter and the clinking of spoons. The grandparent listens more than they speak, creating space for every small story. A dream remembered, a silly joke, a plan for the afternoon. This attentive silence is itself a lesson. Love often sounds like listening. Later, the family walks to a nearby farmer's market. The grandparent greets vendors by name, exchanging warm smiles and brief conversations. Here, relationships are woven like threads in a tapestry, each familiar face a reminder that community is built not only by proximity, but by repeated kindness. The grandchildren watch closely, noticing how a simple greeting can turn a transaction into a friendship. They begin to see that being part of a neighborhood means more than living on the same street. It means caring for the people who share your days. Back at home, the grandparent invites everyone to the porch. The afternoon sun paints gentle patterns through the leaves as they sip lemonade and talk about the changing seasons. The grandchildren ask questions about autumn colors and winter snow, and the grandparent answers with quiet wonder, describing how trees rest in winter so they can bloom again in spring. Without realizing it, the children are absorbing a profound truth, that periods of stillness and renewal are as natural and necessary as growth. As evening falls, the grandparent pulls out a box of old family letters tied with a fading ribbon. Together they read the words of ancestors whose voices echo across time, messages of hope, resilience, and everyday love. The children are fascinated by the looping handwriting, the quaint turns of phrase, the stories of long journeys and humble triumphs. Through these letters, they see that they are part of something far larger than themselves, a lineage of courage and care stretching back through generations. Dinner that night is a feast of shared effort. Each person contributes, washing vegetables, setting the table, stirring pots on the stove. The kitchen hums with laughter and the occasional clatter of a dropped utensil. The grandparent shows how a meal becomes more meaningful when everyone's hands have helped create it. When they finally sit down to eat, the food carries not just flavor, but the warmth of collaboration. The grandchildren taste more than soup and bread. They taste belonging. After the meal, the grandparent suggests a quiet walk under the stars. They point out constellations, telling stories of ancient travelers who once looked to the same sky for guidance. The children tilt their heads back, eyes wide, and feel the vastness of the universe pressing gently against their imaginations. In that silent awe, they learn another unspoken rule: humility in the face of the infinite. Back inside, the grandchildren yawn and settle into blankets for a bedtime story. The grandparent chooses a tale of perseverance, a hero who overcomes obstacles not with force but with kindness and cleverness. As the story unfolds, the children drift towards sleep, carrying with them the subtle message that strength is found in compassion. The grandparent watches their peaceful faces and feels a quiet satisfaction. Lessons of the heart rarely need to be announced. They simply take root. When the house is still once more, the grandparent sits alone with a cup of tea, reflecting on the day. They think of the countless small acts that have shaped their family. Moments of forgiveness, bursts of laughter, quiet reassurances offered at just the right time. They understand that wisdom is not a single event, but a lifetime of gentle choices, each one building upon the last like stones in a strong foundation. In these quiet hours, they also remember their own grandparents, the way a calloused hand held theirs on a bustling street, the scent of bread baking on a winter morning, the sound of a lullaby sung softly against the night. Those memories live on, not as distant echoes, but as guiding lights, influencing every gesture they now offer to their own grandchildren. The circle remains unbroken. Eventually the tea grows cool, the house silent but full of presence. The grandparent smiles, knowing that their greatest legacy will not be found in possessions or accolades, but in the invisible threads of love, patience, and respect woven into the hearts of those they cherish. Tomorrow will bring another sunrise, another chance to teach without words and to love without condition. And that, perhaps, is the final unspoken rule, that the most lasting wisdom is lived, not declared. Long after midnight, the house rests in a hush so complete that even the ticking clock seems respectful. The grandparent remains awake, not from restlessness, but from a quiet desire to stretch the evening a little longer. They walk softly from room to room, pausing at each threshold as if to bless the spaces that hold so many memories. The scent of baked bread lingers faintly in the air, mingling with the cool fragrance of night. Every chair, every photograph, every small imperfection in the wooden floors tells a story of love well lived. They settle once more by the window, the moon spilling silver light across the garden. In the distance, a train hums along invisible tracks, its low rhythm echoing the heartbeat of generations that have come and gone. The grandparent thinks of how many lives are moving forward at this very moment. Babies born, vows exchanged, reconciliations begun. They feel a kinship with all of it, an understanding that their own joys and sorrows are part of something far greater than any single lifetime. A quiet gratitude wells up, not just for family and friends, but for the chance to have witnessed the ordinary miracles of existence. A child's laughter on a cold morning, the first blossoms of spring after a harsh winter, the reassuring weight of a loved one's hand. These are the treasures that cannot be bought or lost, the wealth that remains even when years grow heavy. In their mind, they revisit the unspoken rules they have tried to embody. Listen more than you speak, forgive quickly, honor the past, delight in the present, nurture community, cherish small rituals, love without condition. None were ever written down, yet each has shaped the fabric of the family. They imagine these lessons carried quietly into future kitchens, future gardens, future nights when their grandchildren will tell stories of their own. At last they turn from the window, the moonlight tracing a gentle path across the floor. They breathe deeply, feeling the slow, steady rhythm of a life fulfilled. Tomorrow will bring another dawn, and with it new laughter, new questions, new chances to give and receive love. And when that day comes, they will greet it as they always have, with an open heart, a patient smile, and the quiet confidence that the simplest acts of care are the ones that last forever.